What if I told you that right now, as you were listening to this, you aren't just using your ears?
Right.
Like, what if, according to the esoteric framework we're diving into today, you are actually using roughly, I don't know, 11,000 distinct senses to process the universe around you?
I mean, it completely shatters the standard biological model we are all taught in school,
Yeah, totally.
because we think we just have these five physical senses taking in a purely physical world. But the texts we are exploring today, they propose a completely different architecture of reality.
They really do. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are examining a really fascinating set of Islamic esoteric philosophy and Sufi texts, along with two highly intricate cosmic diagrams that try to map out the spiritual mechanics of reality.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is. And our mission today is just to decode this worldview impartially for you. We are going to look at the argument that the universe is built entirely on, well, knowledge rather than physical matter.
Right, the code behind everything.
Yep, exactly. And we'll explore those 11,000 hidden senses and really unpack the text's bold claim that human beings can literally break free from the constraints of earthly time and space.
It is just this massive philosophical journey. We are essentially reverse engineering creation, according to this specific spiritual tradition. We're looking at the invisible gears and pulleys that allegedly run the cosmos.
Yeah, and by the time we finish, you might look at your own thought processes, or, I mean, even just a simple glass of water sitting on your desk right now from a completely new vantage point.
Oh, absolutely.
So the text starts with this really foundational premise. It basically argues that human beings are the deputies of God, or Khalifatullah, and that we govern the universe through these spiritual sciences. But the engine running this universe is this concept called ilm-i-shay.
Right, yeah. Ilm-i-shay translates roughly to the knowledge of the thing.
Okay.
And what the author is proposing here is just this radical shift in how we view matter. In our, secular modern view, a physical object is the fundamental reality.
Yeah, it's the base level, yeah.
Exactly. But in this philosophical framework, creation is not fundamentally physical at all. Before any tangible object can exist, like a star, a tree, a human body, it must first exist as an idea or as knowledge in the divine mind.
So the physical universe is just the, I guess, the dense outward manifestation of that invisible knowledge.
You hit the nail on the head.
I was actually trying to visualize this because it's a pretty heavy concept. And think about the apps on your smartphone or a website you visit every day.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. You see the visual interface, the buttons, the images, the text.
Yeah.
And you interact with it as if it's a solid physical thing.
Hey, you touch the screen.
But the true reality of that website isn't the screen at all. The true reality is the back-end software code, the ones and zeros sitting on a server somewhere. If the physical server drops and your screen cracks, the interface just disappears. But the code...
The code is still there.
Exactly. The knowledge of the app remains completely intact.
That is a phenomenal modern parallel. I mean, the text essentially argues that physical matter is just the temporary user interface.
Wow, yeah.
Because the material object is a manifestation that comes after the knowledge. It is subject to the laws of entropy. It decays, it breaks down, it eventually just ceases to be.
Right, the screen breaks.
But the ilm, that foundational code or knowledge of it, that is eternal and indestructible.
Which, I mean, that leads to a wildly counterintuitive claim about where true power actually lies. Because the author states that if a person wants to enact real change in the world, they shouldn't waste their time manipulating the physical object.
Yeah, that's the illusion.
Right. True spiritual power comes from manipulating the knowledge of the object.
Oh yeah, if you want to change the website, you don't paint over your computer screen.
Exactly.
You have to rewrite the code. So the text is telling us that the invisible realm of knowledge holds the actual steering wheel of reality. And it takes us a step further by claiming that in this transcendent invisible world, every single word, thought, and concept has a literal shape and weight.
Even illusions, right. The text explicitly says that an illusion, what it calls waham, has actual weight, form, and power.
Oh, completely. Just consider the psychological destruction an illusion can cause. The author points out that an obsession or a deep-seated paranoia or just an illusion can entirely shatter a person's reality.
Yeah, it can ruin lives.
It can isolate them and render them completely paralyzed, turning them into, well, a suspended member of society.
Right.
If an invisible thought or an illusion had no actual structural weight, how could it exert such devastating physical and psychological force on a human being?
That makes a lot of sense. The source actually uses the analogy of the wind here, which I found really
Oh
compelling.
yeah, the wind analogy is great.
Right. You look outside, and you cannot see the wind. It has no physical shape that the human eye can detect. But, a gentle breeze can cool you down, and when that same invisible force gathers enough speed and pressure, it becomes a Category 5 hurricane.
It levels entire town.
Exactly. It destroys steel buildings. The invisible air has this undeniable, terrifying physical power.
And the author is really challenging us to recognize that just because something lacks a solid, tangible boundary, that doesn't mean it lacks force. Thoughts and knowledge are, well, they are the ultimate forces in this framework.
Okay, so if thoughts have that much weight, we need to talk about how we are perceiving them, which brings us back to that mind-stopping claim I mentioned at the start.
The 11,000 senses.
Yes. The text argues that according to its theory of color and light, humans do not just have 5 senses. We have around 11,000 composite senses constantly operating. And, I kind of have to push back on the author here.
Okay, let's hear it.
If I possess 11,000 senses, why do I only experience 5? And frankly, I feel like I'm barely using 3 of them on any given Tuesday, Where are the other 10,995?
Well, the author isn't suggesting you have thousands of unique physical organs.
Oh, okay.
The theory posits that our primary 5 senses are basically massive composites. Think of a thick transatlantic fiber optic cable.
Right, okay.
From the outside, it just looks like one single cord.
Right.
But if you slice it open, you find thousands of microscopic individual glass threads inside, and each one is carrying its own distinct stream of data.
So my sense of sight isn't just one stream of data.
According to this philosophy, no, it's not. Your conscious mind registers the macro result. So the final image of a room or the sound of a voice.
Okay.
But subconsciously, your spiritual architecture is utilizing thousands of microsenses to process subtle energetic inputs, spiritual frequencies, and the underlying knowledge of your environment, all simultaneously.
That is wild.
Yeah, and your brain just filters it down to 5, so you can actually function in the physical world without being completely overwhelmed.
Okay, so if we are subconsciously absorbing thousands of streams of invisible data all the time, what is the baseline signal? Like, what is the medium carrying this information? The text introduces a concept called Tajalli to explain this, and it ties it directly to our physical health, which is fascinating.
Yeah, Tajalli is a really vital component of this cosmic architecture. It translates to divine light or divine manifestation.
Okay.
In this worldview, Tajalli is the foundational unbroken current of the universe. Imagine a continuous baseline energy wave that circulates endlessly through every single atom and particle of creation. It is the steady rhythm of life itself, and it is inherently pure and positive.
Right, pure energy. And here's where the text gets highly specific and honestly a bit controversial.
Yeah, it does.
It argues that this baseline flow of Tajalli can be disrupted by human behavior. The author claims that if our thoughts are severely scattered or polluted with deep negativity or malice, or if we carry heavy guilt, or even if we just consume rotten, unnatural food, we create a localized disruption in that current.
Basically, you introduce dissonance into a pure frequency.
Exactly. But the text claims this dissonance actually alters the fixed quantities of our human biology, resulting in literal physical ailments.
Right.
It specifically lists things like boils, ringworm, and unknown diseases as the direct result of this disrupted energy. And I really struggle with this. Are these texts literally claiming that my guilty conscience over snapping at a friend is going to give me a skin rash? I mean, it feels a bit like medieval superstition masking as spiritual science.
I mean, it's a very fair critique.
Okay.
To understand their argument, you really have to look at it through their lens of psychosomatic resonance.
Psychosomatic resonance, okay.
They aren't saying a bad mood magically creates a boil out of thin air. They are arguing for a deep mechanistic connection between invisible energy and physical cells.
Okay, walk me through that.
So if the universe operates on a pristine baseline frequency, that Tajalli and your deep-seated guilt or malice generates a chaotic, heavy frequency, well, those two waves collide.
And my physical body is the crash site.
Precisely. Your physical vessel bears the brunt of that energetic collision. The chaotic frequency scrambles your cellular rhythm, which the text calls your fixed quantities.
Oh, I see.
So the boil, or the illness, is really just the physical exhaust of a spiritual engine misfiring.
That is such a specific way to view illness. But, okay, if we accept this framework where mental dissonance creates physical disease, how do we fix it?
Right, what's the cure?
Yeah, and the text offers this really fascinating insight into religious rituals, specifically the act of physical washing, or wudu in the Islamic tradition, which is performed before worship. And my initial thought was always, well, if worship is purely a mental and spiritual connection, why involve physical water at all?
It definitely seems contradictory until you view it through the lens of interrupting those chaotic frequencies we just talked about.
Right. The text explains it beautifully. It basically states that washing your face, your hands, and your arms isn't primarily about scrubbing off physical dirt. It is a psychological reset mechanism.
Yeah, think of it as a pattern interrupt.
A pattern interrupt, exactly.
When your thoughts are scattered and you are carrying the stress of the physical world, splashing cool water on your skin creates a mild physical shock.
Yeah, it wakes you up.
It demands your nervous system's immediate attention. The author argues this physical act brings a sense of cheerfulness and freshness that forcibly clears out the disruptive static.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it hits the mute button on your chaotic thoughts, allowing your mind to realign with that baseline flow of Tajalli. So you actually have the clarity required to focus on worship.
It is using a physical action to force a spiritual realignment. That's brilliant. So if we have the power to disrupt or realign our own biology, what else does this invisible architecture connect us to?
Well, this brings us to the visual evidence provided in the sources.
Yes, the diagrams. We have two highly detailed cosmic diagrams to decode here. The first one is titled Moyon Mitterrand, which translates to fixed quantities.
Right, and this diagram is really the author's attempt to map the hierarchy of consciousness. If you can, picture a series of concentric circles radiating outward like a massive archery target.
Okay, got the target in my head. And at the absolute dead center of this target is what the text labels quantity
A
zero.
bullseye.
The bullseye, exactly. This represents cosmic consciousness. It is the origin point containing the most fundamental, universally shared needs of all creation. So the basic drive to exist, the need for sustenance, the drive to reproduce.
And then, as you move outward from that center point, the circles become the species consciousness, which are labeled quantities 1 through 5.
Okay.
Quantity 1 is humanity. Quantity 2 represents animals.
Mhm.
3 is plants. 4 is minerals and inanimate objects. And 5 is jinn.
Let's actually pause there for a second just to clarify, as that term might be unfamiliar to some listeners. In Middle Eastern and Islamic theology, jinn are described as unseen entities or spirits, operating in a dimension parallel to humans, often said to be made of smokeless fire.
Exactly.
So the diagram places them alongside humans, animals, and plants as a distinct species category.
Yeah. And finally, on the outermost rings of this diagram, you have the countless individuals that are continuously generated within each of those species categories. So the individual person, the individual oak tree, the individual sparrow.
Okay, so the profound takeaway the author extracts from this diagram is all about fundamental drives. Because a human being drinks water because they are thirsty. A lion in the savannah drinks water, and a bird drinks from a puddle. The biological mechanisms are totally different. We are on completely different species branches on that diagram. But the actual drive to consume the water, that invisible urge, stems from the exact same central point, quantity zero.
It really does. And to cement this, the source offers a gorgeous analogy involving a vast pond.
Oh, I love this
Oh,
part.
it's so good. Imagine the water in this pond is quantity zero, that shared cosmic consciousness. If you drop a stone into the water, a ripple forms. Now, as long as that ripple is traveling underwater beneath the surface, it represents an individual's unconscious self.
Because it's still part of the whole.
Exactly. It is deeply connected to the whole body of water.
But when that ripple eventually breaks the surface of the pond and becomes visible to the eye, that is the individual's conscious physical self.
Right. Every visible ripple on the surface seems separate. The human ripple looks different from the lion ripple, which looks totally different from the tree ripple. But beneath the surface, in the unconscious realm, they are quite literally made of the exact same water.
This just explains so much about human nature for me. Like, it explains why you can stand on a beach, stare out at the massive crashing ocean, or look up at a giant ball of burning gas we call the sun, and suddenly feel this overwhelming, strange sense of kinship.
Yeah, that feeling of awe.
Logically, a human has nothing in common with a star. But according to this text, that feeling isn't just poetic sentimentality. It is quantity zero recognizing itself. Deep at the bottom of the cosmic pond, our roots draw from the exact same source code.
We are intimately tethered to the entire universe on a subconscious level, which perfectly sets up the second diagram, actually. Because if we are that deeply connected to everything in the unconscious realm, well, the next logical question is, How do we actively access that connection?
Right, how do we tap into the pond? So the second diagram is titled Din Rat, meaning day and night, and it is a pie chart divided cleanly down the middle.
Okay.
The left half is white with radiating lines representing the day, or our conscious waking state.
And the author is very clear about the rules of the left side. The waking state is strictly bound by the constraints of earthly time and space. Movement here must be sequential.
Step by step.
Yeah, to get from point A to point B, you are forced to travel through every single intermediate step.
So if I want to leave my house and go to a coffee shop, I have to open the door, walk down the street, cross the intersection, and open the cafe door. I literally cannot skip steps.
Nope.
But the right side of the pie chart is solid black, and this represents the night, the state of sleep, or the unconscious realm.
And the rules change entirely on the black side of the chart. In this unconscious state, you are completely free from the constraints of earthly time and space.
Okay, how so?
Well, movement is no longer sequential. It is instantaneous. You can travel from point C to point D while completely bypassing the middle.
It sounds a bit like, I don't know, quantum tunneling in physics or fast traveling in a video game.
That's a great comparison.
Because in a dream, you can be sitting in your childhood bedroom, and in the very next second, you are walking on the surface of Mars.
Exactly.
There is no commute. The laws of physics are just completely suspended. Now, the text makes a really striking mathematical observation here. Between our childhood years, which the author classifies as a largely unconscious developing state, and the sheer amount of hours we spend sleeping every night, humans actually spend the majority of their total lifespan in this unbound, unconscious state.
Which is wild. When you think about it, we spend more time free from time and space than we do trapped within it. Which implies that the waking, restricted world might actually be the anomaly, not the default.
That flips everything upside down. So what is the objective here? The text claims that the ultimate spiritual achievement is for a human being to tap into that black side of the pie chart, to access the instantaneous, seededy freedom of the unconscious mind while they are fully awake and conscious.
Right. It is all about merging the two halves of the chart. If you can consciously navigate the unconscious realm, you break the grip of time and space. You basically open the door to what the text calls the unseen worlds.
But, I mean, how is that functionally possible? How does a person access the boundless dream state while, standing in line at the grocery store?
Yeah, it's the million-dollar question.
The text provides the key in its final segment, and it starts by using the story of the prophet Abraham as a mental framework.
The author uses Abraham's journey as a sort of masterclass in deductive spiritual logic. According to the narrative, Abraham is searching for the ultimate truth, the ultimate creator.
Okay.
He looks up at the night sky and sees a brilliant star and wonders if that is the creator. But hours pass and the star sets. It vanishes. Also fades and sets. Finally, the sun rises. It is blindingly powerful, but eventually, even the sun sets.
So Abraham realizes a foundational rule of this architecture. Basically, anything that sets, anything that fades, anything bound by rules and limitations cannot possibly be the ultimate truth.
Right.
It is temporary.
He discovers the eternal specifically by negating everything that is temporary. This internal cognitive ability to distinguish eternal truth from temporary illusion is identified in the text as the nafs, the inner self, sometimes referred to as the jugular vein.
The jugular vein.
Yeah. It is essentially humanity's built-in radar for reality.
And honing that radar brings us to the ultimate requirement for breaking into those unseen worlds. The text posits that there are billions, perhaps trillions, of these unseen dimensions, but you cannot simply stumble into them.
No, you need a key.
Exactly. To cross over, you must possess a specific tool called Yaqeen, which translates to absolute certainty.
And certainty is the non-negotiable prerequisite for perception here. The philosophical argument is that you cannot perceive something in the unseen realm unless you first possess absolute, unshakable certainty that it exists.
The source uses two really excellent analogies to ground this abstract idea.
Oh, the tree one.
Yeah, the first is a tree. Imagine you are standing in a park directly in front of this ancient oak tree. Your eyes are wide open. But if your mind is completely preoccupied with a stressful phone call, you won't truly see the tree.
Right, it's just background noise.
You won't notice the intricate texture of the bark or the exact shade of the leaves. The tree physically exists in front of you, but for you to actually experience it, the concept of the tree must first exist in your conscious focus.
It's all about attention. And the second analogy applies this to travel. The author asks, why do you board a train to travel to a distant city you have never visited before?
Well, because I know the city is there.
Precisely. You possess absolute certainty that the destination exists. You know there are buildings, streets, and people waiting at the end of the track. Your certainty completely precedes your physical perception of the place.
Oh, wow.
Right. If you lacked that certainty, if you believed the tracks just led off the edge of a cliff, you would never buy the ticket. You would never begin the journey.
And the text applies this exact logic to the spiritual mechanics of the universe. I mean, in modern vernacular, we often use the words certainty or faith to describe a hopeful feeling, like we hope something is true.
Yeah, it's passive.
But this esoteric framework treats Yaqeen as a literal vehicle. Certainty is not blind hope. It is the required mode of transportation to move from the restricted conscious world into the boundless unseen world. If you do not have total certainty that the destination exists, the mechanics of the universe simply will not allow you to arrive there.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
Your belief quite literally defines the outer boundaries of your accessible reality.
It is a profoundly empowering conclusion. Your internal state dictates your external access.
This has been an incredibly dense, just fascinating exploration. We started with the concept of ilm-i-shay, the eternal blueprint of knowledge that predates all physical matter. We unpacked the theory of our 11,000 composite senses constantly processing the baseline flow of Tajalli, and how our own mental dissonance can literally physically damage our biology. We looked at the cosmic pond that connects the unconscious drives of humanity, nature, and the stars.
The quantity zero.
Yeah, quantity zero. And finally, we decoded the pie chart of day and night, learning that absolute certainty is the required vehicle to break the chains of time and space and explore the unseen worlds while fully awake.
I mean, if you're looking for a practical takeaway to apply to everyday life, it really is the undeniable gravity of your own focus.
Yeah.
This framework insists that your internal landscape, so your fleeting thoughts, your deep-seated guilt, your absolute certainty, these are not just invisible nothings. They are the heavy structural forces of the universe.
They have weight.
Yeah, they have the power to create physical illness by scrambling your biological frequency, or, if wielded with intention, they have the power to unlock dimensions you never even knew existed.
It fundamentally changes how you think about your own thinking. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today, building on this idea that physical matter is just a temporary projection of an eternal blueprint.
Okay.
We live in an era obsessed with permanence, right? We spend billions on biohacking, anti-aging science, and, theories about uploading our consciousness to artificial intelligence just to live forever.
Constantly, yeah.
But if this text is right, and the physical body is just the temporary decaying interface, what does that mean for our modern pursuits? Are we desperately trying to pour eternal concrete to save a temporary building while completely ignoring the blueprint that actually sustains us?
That is a brilliant question to end on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the physical, keep exploring the unseen, and we will catch you next time.